All right, it is time for ranking 100 movies part 2. You can go watch part 1 if you want to see my bottom 50 or my bottom 45, I think it was. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. I still enjoyed a lot of movies in part 1, obviously. Just because it's my bottom 50 doesn't mean they were all bottom movies. Someone just drove in the wrong lane on the street. I hope they're okay. But of course, these are the top 50 movies that I watched in 2024. Actually, it's 51 in this video because I forgot a movie entirely. Luckily, it's in my top like 15 movies, I think, or it's in my top 10. I don't even know, but it's in my top. So luckily we didn't miss out on one. I somehow managed to watch nearly 100 movies in 2024, but of course that was not all I was consuming. I was reading a lot. I discovered fan fiction this year, which that's a conversation for another day. And I was listening and watching masterclass videos as well. Masterclass is of course the sponsor of today's video, and their classes have been so inspiring for me lately. I've been listening to them on my morning walks every day, and they've been inspiring to me not only for my own writing, because I listen to their writing courses primarily, but also in getting video ideas. Joyce Carol Oates has a class on the art of the short story, and I was not anticipating it to inspire me in so many other ways in life as well. Of course, she has tips for writing in general, but I love that she focuses on the art of noticing, on journaling. She really encourages journaling, especially longhand journaling and like writing things down and just taking notes throughout your day, or when you go on a walk, coming back and writing down all the notes. And that's really been translating into video ideas and getting inspired everywhere that I go or everything that I see or consume. And I have a lot of great video ideas, in my opinion, coming in 2025. So I hope you're excited to watch them. Now, what I really love about masterclass classes is, of course, you can watch them, their videos, but I like to listen to them like they're a podcast. So you just pop in your earbuds and you can multitask, because I'm a busy mom. I need to do multiple things at once. So while I'm on a walk with my daughter, I'll have masterclass going in my ears, or doing house chores or things like that. So I really like the versatility of being able to just listen to the classes as well. They're also separated into chapters, so you can learn in more bite-sized chunks, which I really like, because sometimes you only have 20 minutes here and there. Masterclass offers thousands of lessons from over 200 experts in their fields from varying subjects like home, arts and entertainment, science and tech, sports even, and of course my favorite, writing, and it's all just $10 a month billed annually. So you can check out Masterclass today and turn your professional aspirations into achievements. Make sure to click the link in the description down below to get started today for 15% off. All right, are we all ready for ranking 100 movies part 2? So ranking 51 movies in this video. Let's go. In 51st place, we have Alien Resurrection. This is the only Alien movie I realized that I had never seen before. I had seen all the other ones, but my partner and I did an entire Alien marathon this year. Loved it. Loved rewatching all the Alien movies, but Alien Resurrection, how had I never seen that before? Like, obviously it's in 51st. I gave it a 3.5. I wanted to give it so much more. You know, my soul and my heart wants to give it a 4. I really enjoyed this movie. I cannot, however, get past Joss Whedon as the writer and how he wrote this movie. It was kind of bad. Like, the writing is really bad in this movie, which is so unfortunate because it was such a cool concept. Like, why did he have to write this movie? Anyway, I still had fun with it. It was a really cool idea, and I really liked the cast. Like, Winona Ryder was a huge surprise to me. Next, we have Humane. This is a movie that was released this year, and if you're a fan of movies like You're Next or Ready or Not, this is not as good as those, but it's very reminiscent of those kind of family drama, like family thriller horror movies. I had a fun time with it. I think the concept, it's very dystopian. It's really cool, and it's very simple, single location in a house, family members turning on each other, that kind of thing. So I think it's worth a watch. Next is Late Night with the Devil. I did a whole review on this. I wanted to love this one a lot more as well. But yeah, it was fine. It was good. It was a good movie, don't get me wrong, but I was expecting a lot more. Next is Stop Motion. Similar to my criticisms for Late Night with the Devil, really well done. I really liked the performances and the overall idea going on here. However, it was lacking a little bit, so I couldn't rate it higher. I wanted to give it a 4 as well. Maybe this is a movie also my soul gives a 4, but in practicality and technicalities, it's a 3.5. I finally watched Ghost Watch, y'all. I finally did it. I really enjoyed this one. I think it's such a fun found footage. It's rated 3.5 because it wasn't like, I don't want to say it was because it wasn't scary because like what am I talking about? But I really enjoyed it still. Like it wasn't scary, but I liked that it was tense and I could see people experiencing this like live on TV and being like, what is going on? Because they're actual presenters and like hosts. So I could see why they would be like really entertained by that and probably really freaked out too at the time. In 46, we have Death to Smoochie. Good old Robin Williams. This movie is so fun. I love Robin Williams. He's my comfort actor, like my main comfort actor. And so any movie with him is a good time. And him in this role specifically was so funny because I'm not really used to him playing a role like this where he's a little bit more vulgar, but just a fun movie. I think it was really good. Next is The Platform 2. I know I'm probably in the minority of liking this one a little bit more than others. I still had a good time with it. I think it kept that the disturbing elements and like the story and everything. So I found it to still be really effective for what it's trying to achieve with the social allegory and everything like that. Next is Immaculate. This, I think, is the only movie to make me cry this year, and I've talked about that before in multiple videos, but Immaculate was really good. Obviously, it's one of many religious horror movies that we got, but I was pleasantly surprised and impressed by this one. Next is Heretic. Again, a movie I wanted to love so much more, but in the end, it was really enjoyable, and I think I like it more having sat with it for a longer period of time. It is a little bit cliche, and I don't know if I had like expectations because it was A24 that it would do something a little bit different, but it didn't. It tried to in the end, you know, it tried to get a little bit more vague, a little bit spiritual, but that didn't necessarily work for me. So to everyone's surprise, in 42nd place, we have Terrifier 3. First of all, who would have thought this would be on the list ever? Because I did say I would never watch this movie because of the child. Loved it. Loved the experience of this. Typically, these kind of movies aren't my thing, like the super gory for gore's sake, as I'm wearing a Saw shirt. There's a plot in Saw, okay? The plot in Saw is a lot stronger than the plot in Terrifier, and I will not be debating that. But surprisingly, I like Terrifier 3 a lot. I think it's the best one out of all of the Terrifier films and would really recommend everyone watch it if you want to be really grossed out. I mean, of course they push the limits. Ironically, the next one is called Terrified. Finally watched Terrified, which was really good. It's a Spanish film, and this is from 2017. It's been on my list forever, and I also really, really enjoyed this. It was really creepy and unsettling, and I thought it would get me a little bit more, like it would scare me a little bit more, and it wasn't as good with the story elements, but it was still really fun. I really like this one. Okay, the next three, we're just gonna power through really fast because we went on a little Tom Hanks spree. 40, Bridge of Spies. I don't really have anything to say about it. And then we have Captain Phillips. This one was better than Bridge of Spies, I think. Bridge of Spies is a little bit more slower, but Captain Phillips was very adventure-based, like on the water. I love a good water movie, horror or not. Anything set in a ship, I'm all for. So that was a fun movie. And then, can you believe, in 38th place, I'm putting Forrest Gump. Oh, I should also mention the Tom Hanks movies starting the 4 stars. So from here on out, my top 40 movies, all 4 stars or above. So that's pretty impressive. I've watched a lot of good movies this year. Anyway, I'd never seen Forrest Gump in my life. So finally watched that. Tick that off the list. In 37th, we have the Powerpuff Girls movie from 2002. Ironically, I did not watch this with my daughter. This was not for my daughter. It was for my partner. He felt like watching it, and I'd never seen it before, so I'm counting it, okay? Next, I watched Promising Young Woman. This movie made me feel weird. It was really good. That's why I gave it a 4. But it made me feel weird with the ending, and I didn't believe it. Even after the movie ended, I was still in disbelief that that's how it went, and that's how it ended. I don't know how I feel about it. I took a star off because I was like, I feel weird. I don't know why. Then I watched Cold Mountain, which was for a video that I did of a mystery DVD pack picks my movie night, where I opened mystery DVD packs and I picked a movie from that to watch, and I chose Cold Mountain. It's a very slow burn drama, but such a beautiful movie. It has Nicole Kidman in it. I was so shocked that I liked that movie so much. It's beautiful. You really should watch it. Next is Training Day. Loved it. I loved Training Day so much. Ethan Hawke, Denzel Washington. I'd never seen Denzel in a role like that, really, so I thought that was really fun. It was a great movie. I'm a huge fan of Training Day now, especially 'cause it's early 2000s, you know? Next is a movie called Sorcerer. This movie was incredible. It is a 1977 movie, and I chose this because I wanted to get inspired and watch a lot of adventure type movies and get inspired for writing stories and stuff, and just, you know, for my own writing purposes is why I watched this. So good. It's so good. I loved this movie. It was so simple of a plot, but there was so much going on. It's so exciting. It's definitely an adventure story. There's so much tension. They're moving explosives, and if they jumble the truck at all, it goes up. So highly recommend Sorcerer as well if you've never seen it. I'd never heard of it before I was doing my little research on adventure movies. It was great. Next is Inside Out 2. Inside Out is also on this list later, but Inside Out 2 was really good. Also a movie my daughter's obsessed with, and we have seen many times since it's come out, because it came out this year. We have watched it many a times. Next is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I wanted to like this movie so much more. If this was a two-parter, it would have been so good. I know a lot of movies do like 2 parts, and sometimes it's unnecessary. Like, I don't really think Mockingjay necessarily had to be 2 parts, but this one should have been 2 parts. There is so much in the book that they just packed into the movie that it felt so rushed, and it didn't really explore like the evolving nature of their relationship, you know what I mean? Like, so it just happens in the end. I liked the build up to that moment in the book so much more. The book is one of my favorite books I read this year, and probably of all time. It's a fantastic book. I love a good morally gray character that we know is evil in the future, because you're like, am I rooting for him? I don't really know. But I love that question, and to like see his backstory, and there are moments where you feel sympathy, but then you're like, oh, but he's actually kind of evil, and he's just so by the book, and he's a fascinating character. I really like Snow's backstory. Next is Abigail. I'm surprised too. This is ranked so high, and I rated it a 4. It was fun. It was just a fun movie. Highly recommend. Also, in that same vein, it's What's Inside. This movie was such a surprise for me. So mind-bending. If you want a mind-bending movie that came out this year, it's What's Inside. It's on Netflix. It was a very surprising movie of how much I really enjoyed watching this, and I could see myself rewatching this. Just one of those fun ones that you put on. Next is a movie called Brain Dead or Dead Alive. Came out in 1990. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. I finally watched it this year, and it was an experience. Don't eat while you watch this. I don't get squeamish. This one made me squeamish. This in the front room this year, But I could see why Brain Dead is an iconic movie, or Dead Alive, whatever. I could see why it's iconic and why everyone loves it and recommends it. It was just such a wild ride. Like, halfway through, you're like, what am I watching? This is so stupid. Like, it's really silly. And then like just stuff, it just never lets up. It's just Next is Out of Africa. This movie came out in 1985, and it stars Meryl Streep, and this is one my partner wanted to watch, and he put it on like a couple times, and I was like, I wasn't really into it. It was like his movie, and I would just be like doing my own thing in the same room, like on my phone or whatever. And then when he got to about like a third of the way in, or even halfway in, I was like, you know, I'm gonna watch that. It's an extremely slow burn. It is based on a true story. It is very fascinating. It's a very interesting story. As simple, I don't want to say simple, because there's like a lot that happens. It spans a long time. It's very interesting, a very interesting movie, and I thought it was really good. Next is Lovely, Dark and Deep. I think I'm the only person to give this movie over 4 stars, or give it 4 stars, because I don't think people A, knew about it, and B, really liked it. I don't really know. I have talked about it before on the channel, so I'm hoping some of you checked it out. I think my fascination with it was that she's a park ranger and it's like taking place in a national park. I love national parks and I love stories taking place in national parks. I even have books on like actual ranger stories of things that have happened in national parks and like haunted parks and things like that. I'm just obsessed with parks, like national parks and camping and woodsy things. And this had all of that plus the supernatural elements. The supernatural elements in this were so beyond. Like, I loved the visuals and where this went. It's not going to work for everybody, but it was gorgeous. Next is Monsters University, arguably better than Monsters Inc. The character arc, why am I talking about Monsters University? The character arc is so impressive in this. Again, we've also seen this 100 times, but it is so good. Like, I'll just sit and watch it with her. Like, I love watching this movie. It's so good. Next is Dune Part 2. I really like the Dune movies. I think they're so beautiful and stunning, so well done. I do feel like Timothée Chalamet is a miscast in this. I don't see it. He was perfectly cast in Don't Look Up, and I feel like that's what I picture when I think Timothée Chalamet or like Interstellar. I don't see him in this world of Dune. But, you know, that aside, the movies are great. I think they're stunning. And Dune in a theater, unmatched. Next is Infested. This is a French horror film that came out this year. One of my favorites, one of my favorite horrors of the year. It was so creepy. I mean, it's creepy crawly, you know, it's spiders. Didn't think I was really scared of spiders, but there were so many scenes where I was like crawling out of my skin. It was, if you are afraid of spiders, don't watch this one because it will get you and it'll stick with you. They used real spiders, by the way, real huntsman spiders in this. Yeah, they're practical. Next is Dream Scenario. Obsessed with this movie. Nicolas Cage. It's so good. I think it came out last year, but it's newer. It was so bizarre. I love a good weird mind twisty story, like Dream Scenario, like what is happening. I think White Noise really it kind of reminded me of White Noise as well. It like fits into that same category of just bizarre, what is going on kind of story with like an eccentric main character that is just weird. I loved this movie. The next one is Cheating, but I'm counting it because it was on Letterboxd. I don't know if Letterboxd officially added shows yet, but I watched Uzumaki, the new series from Junji Ito. Now I know there's some controversy around the arts, you know, the illustrations and things, and them being a little bit lazy for a couple episodes. It didn't faze me personally. It didn't take me out of it. This story was so bizarre. I was gonna read the book while we were watching it, but I never knew where the next episode would end. And then I thought I would actually enjoy the show more if I didn't know what was happening. And that is very accurate. I am gonna finish the book, but bizarre. Like Junji Ito, I can't. His mind is beyond anything. Like, I just can't understand where he comes up with these ideas. Like, so much of Uzumaki was very jarring to me, very disturbing. If you know why, you probably know. But, you know, just bizarre. Just bizarre, but fantastic, amazing, incredible. I love that kind of horror. Okay, we are officially getting into the top 20 movies of 2024 for me. And next up we have I Saw the TV Glow. I've talked about this many, many times, so I'm not really gonna delve too into it, but beautiful, artistic, kind of art house, almost experimental movie as well. Just stunning. I loved it. Next, I watched They Cloned Tyrone. I'd never seen this. This came out in 2023 also, I believe, but it's still somewhat newer. Why did I never watch this? This movie is so much fun. It's kind of like a level of fun, like It's What's Inside, like a little bit more lighthearted in tone, but the plot is so fascinating and a little bit dystopian. It's really cool. I really like this one. The next one, it really should be ranked higher. I think, again, my soul gives it 5 stars. It deserves more than 5, or more than 4 stars. Predestination. This, okay, the most mind-bending movie I have ever seen in my entire life. It is the most twisted, bizarre. I did not know what was happening or where this movie was going to go. It blew my mind. I'm not exaggerating. This is that wild. This is like Triangle times 10, and I loved every single second of it. It is based on a Robert Heinlein story, so I really want to read that now. But yeah, one of my favorites of the entire year. Obviously, it's in my top 20, but I would definitely rewatch this over some of the other ones that I rated higher because it is just so good. Next is Strange Darling. It really hurts to put Strange Darling in 17th place. I feel like it deserves to go higher, and if you had asked me, I might even have said it would go in top 10, but it's in 17th because the rest of the movies are just so good. They're like, I can't. Super underrated movie of the year. I feel like not a lot of people probably watched it. I was lucky enough to see this in theaters, but it's like a twisted romance, kind of. Just really good story and some good horror elements. And that's all I'm gonna say about it. You should really go in with very little information. Next is Oddity. Again, a movie I've talked about multiple times on the channel. One of my favorite horror movies of the entire year. I think it'll be in my top 10. I think it's in my top 10 horror movies of the year. But in general, it's in 16th place. I just found it to be really, really freaky and some of my favorite jump scares of all time. Next is Milk and Cereal. This is a independent found footage movie released to YouTube by Curry Barker. Incredible. Like, I love this kind of found footage. Again, kind of vloggy style, you know, like vlog YouTube video. I think it's super underrated. I'm glad it's getting some traction on places like TikTok and stuff and spreading through word of mouth because it definitely deserves it. Okay, this is the last movie that's rated 4, and that is Mads. This is the one that I forgot to log that I watched on this list. I recently talked about Mads, so I'm not going to get too into it, but this is a movie that is shot in one single take, and I thought that execution in this one in particular was so well done. I loved the overall concept of this. It is a French movie. Just incredible. Please go watch it. Next is Smile 2. I gave this a 4.5. I think it's because of the ending. I can't give it a full 5, but again, my soul wants to give it a 5. You know what I mean? Like, if we're just going off vibes and horror, yeah, it's a 5. But again, I did a whole review on it. You can go check that out. It is definitely one of the best horror movies of the entire year. Surprisingly, because I did not anticipate that this would be so good, especially for a sequel. Okay, the rest of the movies on this list, the next 12 movies I'm going to talk about, all have 5 stars. I gave 12 5-star ratings. That is incredible for me. I don't know if I was just feeling really generous or just because I'm watching a bunch of new stuff and I'm watching really good stuff. 12 5 stars this year. Okay, next up, we have Society in the Snow. This is not a rewatchable movie in my opinion, but it was such a beautiful movie and I was just so captivated by the story and the survival. It's a survival movie, not a horror movie. It is based on a real story though, which makes it even more gut-wrenching. Like the things that they went through. It's very inspiring if you feel like you yourself are dealing with a lot of things, to watch people be so resilient and persevere through so much. Next we have Inside Out. So many Disney movies in this video. I finally watched Inside Out for the first time this year in July when we went glamping. We went glamping and the glamping site played a movie and it was so much fun watching this in the woods with my daughter. Like, it was such a 10 out of 10 experience, but it's a perfect movie. Also, we watched it many, many times after that. I love Inside Out. The original, the first one, is iconic and beautiful. Okay, top 10 movies that I watched this year. In 10th place, we have The Exorcist 3. Oh my God. Why did no one tell me? Actually, some of you did. The Exorcist 3 is a perfect possession movie. This blew me away. I had such little expectations. I was like, okay, it looks fine. The poster isn't great. I'll put it on. It's from 1990. I think it's just going to be a sequel-ish to The Exorcist 1 and 2. No, beyond. The horror in this, most of it in daytime, the performances, the monologues, the ending is stunning. One of the best possession movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, perfect 5 stars. Next is Love Lies Bleeding. I love this movie. I actually bumped this up. It was a 4 and then I gave it a 4.5 and then finally I was like, you know what, it's a 5. It's a 5-star. So it's going in 9th place of all the movies that I watched this year. It's so good. I really want to rewatch it soon. And I've come to love some of the weirder elements that are in this. When I first saw it, I was like taken aback, like, what was that? I wish there was more of that or none of it. But now I'm like, I get it. And I like the weirdness. In 8th place, oh Lord, Train to Busan. I had never seen it. I know. Listen, I'm glad I waited until I had a child because oh my God. I just feel like I felt it so much more than I would have any other time in my life. So I feel like I watched it at the perfect time. I said Immaculate was the only movie this year to make me cry. I lied. Train to Busan, sobbing. Who would have thought a zombie movie would make me so emotional? Like, it was really great. I loved a lot of the zombie elements as well, just the horror elements in general, the action, the tension. It was in 7th, we have The First Omen. Again, if you would have asked, I would have said it made my top 5 of the entire year. It did make, no, it didn't. It didn't make my top 5 horror movies. Almost. It's in my top 6 horror movies. But again, this is one that I gave a higher rating later on. So I think I originally gave it 4 and then recently I bumped it up to a 5. It deserves a 5. Who would have thought a prequel would have been so good? I feel like the prequels and the sequels this year were just hitting so hard. Like Apartment 7A, prequel Rosemary's Baby, Smile 2, sequel, The First Omen, a prequel to The Omen. Like, why are they good? They shouldn't be good. You know what I mean? In 6th place, we have Red Rooms. This is one of my favorite movies of the entire year and arguably not a traditional horror film, but so creepy and unsettling towards the end. You really have to stick through that. It is a slow burn, but like I said in a previous video, it is the most exciting slow burn I've ever seen. Like, I could not turn this off. I sacrificed sleep in order to watch this entire movie. In 5th, we have Cuckoo. This is probably gonna be an unpopular placement. I feel like not everyone rated this 5 stars. I feel like some people wanted a little bit more from this, more explanation. I was happy with it. I thought it was great and one of the most original movies that came out this year. Next is Alien Romulus. I rated this higher, or like ranked it higher than all the other ones that also had 5 stars because this is the only one that I have rewatched and it just gets better upon rewatch. Like, this is so rewatchable. So good. Just as good the first time I saw it. It's just one of the best Alien movies ever made, especially in the franchise, the Alien franchise. It's one of my favorites in the franchise. Okay, my top 3 movies of the year. This next one I feel so passionately about, and that is Paprika. I love Perfect Blue. And when I said I love Perfect Blue, everyone was like, you need to watch Paprika. And I was like, sure, okay. I finally watched it. I think it's a fact that Inception was clearly inspired by Paprika, and Paprika is like the ultimate Pisces movie. I know I say that all the time, but it's like so dreamy. It's so weird in all the best ways. I was a huge fan of Paprika. Like, I was just in awestruck of this movie, and I played that opening theme so many times. I'm obsessed with that opening. I don't know why. The beat of the song is just so happy and joyful to me that I just kept playing it. Top 2 movies of the year. If you know what came out this year, you know what they are, due to omission of the rest of the video, but next up is Longlegs. Again, not a rewatchable movie to me. I don't know that I can. It made me feel very uncomfortable, so I don't know that I would immediately want to rewatch this. I'd have to give it some time, I think. It is one of the weirder movies of the year. I think it deserves the hype. I have seen some people since say that they didn't like it as much and they thought it was overhyped. So, I mean, I agree, it probably didn't need all of the hype, but I thought it was really brilliant and original and a really great movie. And finally, my favorite movie of the entire year, to no one's surprise, The Substance. I feel like everyone's gonna place this really, really high, if not their favorite of the entire year. I'm not alone in this one. I don't think this placement is controversial. Just incredible, iconic. There's really not much more to say about The Substance. I think the messaging is beautiful and it really, really resonated with me. Actually, this one made me tear up in the theater as well. When the date scene happened in the mirror, this is the only movie that made me feel the entire spectrum of emotions, and I really love when a movie can push me like that and make me feel so much. So yeah, it was a perfect, perfect movie. I wouldn't change a thing. Woo, okay, we got through 100, well, 95, 96 maybe, movies, ranking them all. I can't believe I ranked them. That was a feat. That was very difficult. I would obviously love to hear your favorite movies that you watched this year in total, and your least favorite if you want, although that was the request on the last video. But yeah, make sure to leave a comment down below. What is your favorite #1 or top 3 movies that you watched this year? I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you soon.